Hello and good evening. I'm so happy and excited to be hosting another episode of Africa Thrive Live. So wherever you are, get comfortable, get a glass of water. If you're having dinner, call everybody together. The show tonight is going to be very interesting. And like all good things, they come in pairs. So I'm not on my own today. So I want you to, I was about to say, give a round of applause. And then I remembered I could be doing that on my own. Naomi?
Yeah, thank you, Irene, and welcome everybody. Irene, you didn't introduce yourself.
My name is Irene. I'm based in South Africa. Like Naomi said, Irene is my name, and I'm based in South Africa. I'm working for AMI. Thanks, Naomi.
Yeah, and I'm Irene's colleague, and I'm based here in Nairobi. So welcome to all those watching us on YouTube. I see a couple of comments. I see someone like Waidodi was here like 10 minutes ago. Welcome, Yakini. It's nice to see you again. We have people from LinkedIn, Larry, Chibuike, you're welcome, and also Facebook. So welcome, guys. Get comfortable. It's gonna be a very interesting conversation today. And as you do that, please introduce yourself, but also tell us where are you tuned in from and what business do you do? I know there are a lot of entrepreneurs here and would love to get to feature some of your businesses. So go ahead, go to the comment section, tell us a bit about your business and where you're based. Would love to feature those. Yeah, back to you, Irene.
Yeah, and as you do that, remember this show is about you. You are, as much as Naomi and I are co-hosting the show, you are our fellow co-host. So please feel free to send us a comment, tell us where you're watching from, and please engage. So Naomi and I represent the African Management Institute, abbreviated AMI. If you've seen that symbol, AMI somewhere, soon to come to a billboard close to you, maybe. We never know, but it's going to be. So what we believe in doing is enabling ambitious businesses like you, hopefully, listening to thrive. And how we do that is through giving you or equipping you with practical skills and tools that you need to succeed in whatever area of business you're in. And in terms of thriving and helping you build a community, we have what we call a Thrive community, which is basically a group of ambitious business people, business leaders from across our continent that come together to share ideas, grow together, learn together, and also network. So let me just give you a teaser as to what you can expect by joining the Thrive community. Take a listen. Wow, I always get excited every time I look at that video. I don't know about you, Naomi, but it's super exciting to see this Thrive community growing, and it's really growing. Every single month, we have an opportunity to onboard new people into the Thrive community. It's absolutely free. You get access to a lot of resources. There's a weekly newsletter that comes out with great funding opportunities and news about the continent and what's happening in the business world. And you'll get access to what's happening in terms of AMI, like opportunities that we have. Naomi will talk about that shortly. And of course, a very exciting event that happens monthly. It's a virtual networking session. I know networking can be awkward in a lot of ways, but trust me, you haven't been to a virtual networking session like AMI's. It's totally fun. It's an opportunity for you to get to hear from other entrepreneurs. No pressure to, sell or whatever. Basically, just get to know other entrepreneurs and network. So you can't miss out. This month, we'll be having an amazing speaker, Naomi. Do you want to speak a little bit about the speaker that we'll be having for the AMI networking session?
Yeah, so that's happening next week on Thursday, and we'll be having Joanne Mwangi. So if you're in East Africa, you probably know Joanne. She's a former lioness at the KCB Lions Den. Lions Den, for those who are watching from across the continent or the world, is almost close to what we have Shark Tank. So, or any other sort of similar.
Lions Den. Yeah, in South Africa, we
Yeah,
call it
Lions
Lions
Den.
Den.
Yeah, and in East Africa, we call it Lions Den as well. So we're having Joanne Mwangi. She's a former lioness on the Lions Den, and we'll also be having networking, like Irene said. But before we go straight into the conversation, I just want to read a few comments and a few businesses represented here. We have Dunduzi from South Africa. He said it's a future beauty hub spa in Soweto. Welcome, Mduduzi. We have Adeyinka watching us on YouTube. You're welcome. We have Sifu from Facebook. He's tuned in all the way from Rwanda. Welcome, Sifu. We have an entrepreneur from Rwanda today, so it's pretty exciting. Yikini, as always, nice to have you here. We have Siwale. He said, I'm a managing consultant. He is a consultant focusing on MSMEs. You're welcome. So we have Miriam. She's tuned in from Malawi. She's watching us on YouTube. So you're welcome, everyone. And in case you haven't introduced yourself, go ahead, introduce yourself. Would love to feature some of your businesses here. So there's an interesting thing happening in the Thrive community this month, and it's an opportunity for all Thrivers, as we call them. And it's a entrepreneur flagship program called Survive to Thrive. So it's an opportunity, and there are scholarships available for women and businesses in social and environmental impact. And it's such a great opportunity. It's a 6-month program. And what we want to do today is to get to feature a beneficiary of that program, just to tell you more. Because Irene and I can sit here and tell you all these nice things, but it's always great to get to hear from someone who's been through that program. So I want to briefly introduce Pauline. Help me welcome Pauline. As usual, you know how we do this. Those emojis you're seeing, those are our substitute for hand claps. So welcome, Pauline. As you get set up, it's so nice to have you here. So maybe you can unmute yourself and quickly introduce yourself. Who's Pauline and what business do you do?
Thank you, Naomi. You can hear me. My name is Pauline Kamwara, Managing Director of Epiculture Venture, and I can also say I'm a thriver. Being part of having been trained with the AMI, so I can comfortably call myself a thriver. It's a new title I've acquired, a thriver. But basically,
cool. So what do you do at Epiculture?
Epiculture Venture, we manufacture beekeeping equipment. We train on modern beekeeping. We process honey, and above all, something very unique that we're excited to do, we pollinate crops. We offer the pollination services to different farmers who do it in large scale. So we are also pollinators using the bees. And then finally, we buy and pack honey under our brand name, Golden Bee Honey.
So you said your brand name is Golden Bee Honey?
Yes.
Yeah, so if Pauline is from Kenya, so if you see Golden Bee Honey in your local retailer, you know that's Pauline. So Pauline, please tell us, what challenge motivated you to sort of apply for the Survive to Thrive program? What were you looking to solve as an entrepreneur?
As an entrepreneur, one thing that is key is having knowledge and having network. So when I saw AMI and I went through their website, I quickly knew that this is what I want to achieve. And this is what I want, and I can only achieve it by applying to AMI. And definitely, when I applied, I managed to go through. You see, I realized without networks, beekeeping is not such a big industry, and many people do not know about beekeeping. But by talking to other entrepreneurs like me, you're building your network. And as we all know, your network is your net worth. So having been part of this program, I was able also to build my network. Here, I'm still continuing to build my network by the people I'm interacting with right now. And also another thing that made me, the challenges that I really had were management issues, managing the staff. Managing staff as a new entrepreneur is not an easy thing. But of course, when you interact with your peers, as who are entrepreneurs, they're able to tell you how they've been able to manage their staff in terms of communication, training, and development. And all those I was able also to get them through AMI. Another thing is also lack of planning. I had issues with planning. I used to feel like I'm overwhelmed. What can I do? And everybody I talked to was like, get into a program that will help you know how to plan. And of course, when I applied for MI, I was expecting to up my skills on planning my day-to-day activities, my operations, and also planning for employees' activities. Because in manufacturing, there are so many activities involved, and so that if I'm not able to plan, I used to find I'm losing out on a lot in terms of time management. Another thing that also, one challenge that I had was, as a founder, how do I differentiate myself, my finances from the business finances? So that was also a challenge that I was having. And of course, how do I get to know this? Engaging with other entrepreneurs. How do I, by enrolling in courses like programs like AMI, you're able to interact with other entrepreneurs. Again, who are our peers, women, men, and you're able, in different industries, not necessarily beekeeping, and you're able to share ideas and to see how I can separate these two entities, Pauline as an entity and Epiculture Venture as a company. And that, I must say, I gained a lot from it. And finally, getting out of my comfort zone. You know, when you're coming from employment and starting a business, you're coming from, to me, that was a comfort zone. I know whether if there's money or not, I will earn my salary. So I had to get out of that comfort zone and go for it. I was getting into a space that not many people are in. Beekeeping is not something that is done by many people, more so women. So that challenged me, and that challenge, I have to know what other women have gone through, women who are in businesses that are not really done by women, or if they're done by women, very few of them. So I wanted to know how did they cope with that, and that moved me to move into to enroll at AMI.
Yeah, thanks for that, Pauline. And when you said that, I just thought, a silver lining for COVID is that we've been able to now just work and learn with people from different countries and get different perspectives, because now you have an opportunity to learn with people from Malawi and all these other countries represented. So a quick question, what have you seen immediately? What are some of the things that you have noticed have changed since enrolling, like on your business? What are some of the quick things that the program was able to help you solve?
Thank you. Okay, through interaction with entrepreneurs, I've realized I'm not the only one facing these challenges. There are many other people facing these challenges. So that has motivated me to keep pushing. And that's why I called myself a thriver. I thrived during my stay at AMI. The things I learned have made me thrive, not giving up. That was number one. I'm not going to give up. When we went out to the breakout sessions, as a group, when you're many, there's no direct interaction like talking. But when you go into those breakout sessions, one session you meet people from different countries, South Africa, Nigeria, Malawi, and they're able to tell you they've survived. So that pushed me to know that I can survive too, if my fellow entrepreneurs, my peers have survived. Another short-term thing I've seen, communication. I had a big challenge communicating with my employees, especially during this COVID time, to let them know that, things are hard, not only for us, but for everybody else. And one thing I learned from AMI, communicate to your staff. They're human beings like you. And if you involve them in day-to-day running through communication with meetings, then they will understand. And that one I took up immediately. I learned the importance of having meetings with my staff every Monday morning and just planning ahead. What is happening today? What are we hoping to achieve this week? What did we achieve last week? And even when it came to a point that we had to work in shifts, which staff can work with who? I gave them that choice. It's not like you'll work during this time. So through communication, that's something it was an immediate outcome to me, communication. And eventually I saw my staff were responding well, and that job satisfaction and the production actually increased with minimal friction among the staff. Another thing that I also experienced immediately was employee motivation. I find my employees are motivated. They're able to come and tell me how we can do a certain activity in a different way and still achieve the same result. And to me, I thought it was a one-woman show and I can do it by myself. But through allowing my employees to just participate, they're even more motivated, free to talk to me and just share their ideas. Another thing was also increasing in innovation and strategies and products. There's one thing I had never done since I started in 2018. I'd never set out the strategies of what do I aim to achieve by 2022, 2023. We were able to sit down last month with my team and we've come up with a very good short-term strategies that we aim to achieve as a team, just a 5-pointer, not something long. And this, it was with the help of my employees. Some of them, I didn't even expect them to be able to come up with such brilliant points. And of course, also, as I'd mentioned, innovation, it's been key. We've been able to use, to bring in new ideas, waste control, management, waste management controls, all those, not only from me, but from my team. Increased capacity to adopt new technologies and methods. How have we adapted to new technologies? I'm one person who didn't like online. I didn't think I could learn through online and sit for an hour and just listen and be taught. Yeah, I want to come to a meeting, do my part and sit and listen to other people. But through AMI, I didn't know I could have a span hour to sit for 1 hour or 2 hours. And that has motivated me. I've always looked forward to attending a college. I just wanted to do a course on beekeeping technologies, which I had identified in South Africa. But then now it was an online course and I wasn't sure I could do it. Well, that changed my perspective and I'm ready to go for it. Just attend that course through online and be able to get the knowledge that I require. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you so much, Pauline. And Ashley, you'll help me pull up the information. So if you're keen to enroll for the Survive to Thrive program, in case you're not part of it, the application deadline is on 28th of February. So just check out the link, which we'll be posting on the comment section, and you can apply and join Maureen in thriving and being a thriver. Yeah. So thank you so
Definitely.
much, Pauline, for your time. I just want to bring in my colleague Irene so that we can get to the discussion.
Yeah,
and
that was
introduce
really,
our guest speakers for today.
Yeah, that was really interesting. And I think Pauline has preempted our conversation for tonight, because we're looking at what works in a business, what doesn't work, what are the myths that you as a business person went into business thinking, or as you've started your business, you're thinking expectations versus reality. So that's what we want to dissect. And to have this conversation, we have two amazing, I know I keep using the word amazing, but really, they're really great. I don't know what other word in the English diction could help us explain the kind of guests you get, because they're always spectacular guests. So to have this conversation, we're going to be joined by Ysolde Shimwe, who is a co-founder of UzuriI K&Y, a renowned footwear brand in Rwanda. And Munyutu Waigi, a renowned serial entrepreneur who has co-founded various businesses and is based in Kenya. Like, we wanted to write all the businesses that Munyutu runs. There were so many that we just decided I think it would be awesome to just hear from the man himself. So I'll start with you, Munyutu. Thank you for joining us. And I hear you're not feeling well, but we appreciate your time. So tell us about yourself, Mr. Serial Entrepreneur, and just a little bit about the businesses that you've started or you're currently running.
Okay. So my background is actually in management consulting. And I grew up in London, but I was born in Kenya. So I came back to the country and the continent in 2009. And I was fortunate enough to start a group buying platform called Rupu, which is a Groupon clone. So that company reached its peak. We were nominated Forbes 30 in Africa. And we were nearly purchased by Intel Capital. And eventually I managed to sell the business off to investors. And what that gave me is the capital to start off my next startup, which was in fintech. So in fintech, I did Umati Capital. What we did there, we were lending to the ag space across Kenya and began doing it across the continent, especially starting off with East Africa. And that was fun because we got to learn the entire value chain of agriculture. And we dealt with farmers, we dealt with processors, we dealt with exporters, international buyers. So in a space of about 5 years, we had lent out close to about $10 million and lost about $100,000. So it wasn't that bad. And the other thing I'd like to talk about and share with my experiences with my colleagues here is there's a fear of failure, and you need to accept failure as part and process of the entrepreneurship journey. So we had to shut down Umati, and along the way, I managed to start a few other startups, which also include a concierge laundry and dry cleaning platform. And my latest joy and pride is UzuriI Capital, which deals with fast-moving consumer goods and empowering your low-end merchants, and by ensuring that the same price that the manufacturer sells the products at is the same price that the merchant receives a price and is able to sell on and make significant margins.
Wow, I have so many questions, but I think I want to just introduce Ysolde. I tried to practice your name, and I feel like I'm failing you. So please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your business.
So, my name is Ysolde Shimwe. I'm calling from Kigali, Rwanda. I'm the co-founder and creative director at UzuriI K&Y, which is an African-inspired, eco-friendly shoe manufacturing brand established since 2013 with the vision of branding Africa as an origin of fashion items all around the globe. Unlike my colleague, I don't have that big portfolio of business starting and startup, but for the past 7 years, I've been running this business with my business partner. It's been a fantastic journey to learn and fail. He was talking about the fear of failing. We have tremendously failed, but through failure we have learned, and we've picked up, and I'm confident to say that we're doing amazing right now.
Wow. So what got you into the entrepreneurship space? I'll start with you, Munyutu. What got you? I know you've spoken about being a management consultant. So why entrepreneurship? Why was it a natural next step for you? Sorry, just unmute yourself, please.
All right, can you hear me? Yeah, so I traced back my first business to when I was 7. So in primary school, I began keeping exotic fish, and one day I brought fish for a friend over, and you keep fish in a plastic see-through bag. So the class loved it, the teacher loved it, and soon I began supplying the school with exotic fish. So I also realized that within the family, my mom was heavily into entrepreneurship. And I guess it rubbed off on me over the years as we ran a hotel or two in Mombasa, where I'm originally from. And when we moved to London and I grew up in London, growing up in Europe is actually very difficult for an African, because you're constantly reminded that that's not home. And no matter how much you call it home, the environment is not conducive for innovation, because it's such a developed market. So through my years in London, a friend of mine from uni said to me, look, why are you wasting your years here in London? Why don't you go back to the continent? And I said, what do I know about the continent? I left when I was fairly young. I was about 12. And this time I was about 28. So something in my DNA just said, look, go back home. Wherever you crash land in Africa is where you start from. And a journey begins with a few steps. And I came to Kenya at the time. I knew nothing of the continent. I knew nothing of the country. And crash landed. And 11 years on, here I am. And it's been an absolute amazing journey. I wouldn't change it for anything. And it's it's very liberating to be back home, and I'm open to hopefully one day working in different parts of the continent.
Wow, thank you for that, Munyutu. And I've been Googling both of you, and I'd like to ask Ysolde, what do you think, how has your background influenced how you run your business or how you got into business? Because for you, I know you were with your partner, you have some history. You have some history there. You were in school together, and maybe you can talk about that. How did that influence? How did your background influence who you are today?
That's correct. Well, growing up, I grew up in Kigali. I grew up in a big family. I've always had a particular interest in crafting and the arts. And then I went to university. I was studying creative design. I met my business partner, who we both bonded over an assignment. And then we realized that we wanted to actually create. We engaged into deep conversations, and we realized that we wanted to create something that only, something big that only did not involve only the two of us, but it involved more Rwandans, for Rwandans, and for other people around the world. So when we started, we were very little. We were very young, at only 20 years old. We were just starting university, and we would go to school in the morning, go learn how to make shoes in the afternoon, because we only knew how to do, we only knew the theory part. So we had to actually find a shoe maker on the street. We approached him and told him that we wanted to make shoes. He did not believe it at first, but he is one person that told us, ladies, I like your ambition, but I think you're crazy, but I'm ready to go to start this journey with you. This person is still working with us 7 years later. He's our senior shoemaker. He's 66 years old today, and he's still there. He's still working with us. So what happened is we would go to school in the morning, go make shoes in the afternoon, and then go sell them towards the evening when people were just done with their work. We would make the shoes, and then go deliver them. It's been a fantastic learning experience for us, because we ourselves had to learn how to make shoes, and then how to sell them. And then, so we pretty much have worked in all the departments of our company, and we understand it very well. I think that's part of the biggest background that really has shaped who we are today as leaders, and who we are today as business women.
That's awesome. And thanks for everybody who's looking out for a sister and telling me my internet is shaky. I really appreciate that. I hope this is much better. Naomi, just give me an indication that it's okay, that you can hear me. Munyutu, I just want to bring in the conversation, and you had touched on this, and so did Ysolde. I want to talk about failure, and I was reading an article just preparing for this session, and I was reading about how we have been inculcated to think that the kind of stories that we need to be hearing from each other or sharing are stories of the triumph, not really the journey. And I just want to talk about what are the hard lessons that you've learned along the way, and why is failure something that more entrepreneurs need to talk about as part of the learning journey?
Yes, very good question. So the failures I faced along the journey were vast and very painful. So at first, I came back to this country, Kenya, in 2009. And when I did come back, it was on the ticket of another Italian company that I was setting up a company with in Kenya. So it was a partnership, and they were providing the funding. So about a month before I arrived, I've sent everything. I've sent my stuff by courier. They call me and tell me, hey, the economic crash has affected them and they're shutting down. So I'm on a one-way ticket to Kenya, and failure has hit me that I'm crash landing with no assistance. So I started my first business in Mombasa in a very painful way. But it was important to learn the African way of doing business. We are more relationship-based. Next failure I can talk about openly is when you start a business, it's actually a very lonely road. It's a very lonely trip, and very few people can empathize and understand the challenge you deal with. And as a result, depression tends to sink in and settle in fairly quickly. And if you're not careful, it can sip into your everyday life, and it debilitates your ability to even wake up in the morning. You're dealing with suppliers. Suppliers let you down. You're dealing with buyers. Buyers are telling you, hey, payments are delayed. You've got staff members you need to pay. You've got your rent you need to sort out. You've got your expenses, but then money's tied up somewhere. Next massive failure dealt with is dealing with cannibalistic investors. There's this perception that when you start a company and you engage investors, that it's all hunky-dory. Unfortunately, I've gone through my fair share of cannibalistic investors where, rather than being paid off my fair share of a sale of a business, after investing 3 hard, long, painful years, investor turns around and says, hey, I'll pay you a fraction of what you owed on your shares, and it's up to you what you want to do. Do you want to take it to court? So I opted not to go to court because I knew with my next investment, my investors would Google my name, and I don't want them to see Munyutu took their investor to court. And my most recent and most painful failure is in Umati Capital, a business which we won global awards for, a business which we raised about $3 million for, a business which was working. We were defrauded by an elderly couple, and they were able to crumble an entire business, and they defrauded us about $690,000. So we weren't able to recover from that black hole. And over a period, it was a slow death that lasted about 2 years. And eventually we had to shut shop. But one thing I can say, and I wish I could pass this on to my fellow entrepreneurs on this panel and also whoever are listening. As an African and as Africans, we don't really take losses or bad news properly. We're geared and we're groomed to make sure you're always succeeding and you're an A-star student. But in entrepreneurship, the world teaches you that anything goes, and some days it's good and some days it's terrible. And you just have to pick yourself up, learn, and ensure you don't repeat the mistakes. And also, we need to spend more time looking after our mental health as entrepreneurs. That is something that is understated in so many different ways and so many different places. So one great advice I'd give to my colleagues here is invest in your mental health, because if you're all right, your business is better and the people around you have a better version of you.
Wow, Munyutu, I just want to acknowledge, we've done this Africa Thrive Lives for a while, I think almost all of last year. And a lot of entrepreneurs who come, and not just for the show, even outside, are keen to say, oh, this is what I did to succeed. I made $1 billion, and very shy to talk about the realities of business. And that's the topic we're talking about today. So I just want to commend you for being vulnerable enough to share. And if you're in the comment section and if you're tuning in, feel free to write to us and tell us what are some of the things you've had to overcome or the failures that have come and you're having to overcome them. And we'd love to just read some of those. Ysolde, I want to bring you in and talk a bit about what Munyutu talked about, your mental wellness. And I want to ask, how do you deal with, what are some of the practical things you do to deal with the mental and emotional turmoil that entrepreneurship can help you take, whether it's a high or a lower? What are some of the things that you found helpful for you?
Well, thank you. I've got to thank Munyutu. He's really brought up a really important subject. And I think it's very important. Our mental health as entrepreneurs is because you're a leader and you're supposed to be leading people. So I think entrepreneurship in general is romanticized, but most of the times we do not talk about the things that happen really in the background. I'm usually a spontaneous person. I I love spontaneity, but one thing that COVID has taught me was actually that I do not love it, if I would say. So I had to create my own routine on how to stay sane. I love traveling. I used to travel quite a lot, but now I haven't moved from my country for the past, I think, 18 months, and it's killing me. And as a creative, because you need to be in a creative mind, most of the times those are some of the things that help. So I have learned to create a routine for myself, how to stay sane, and it's either through a walk or a jog with my dog, or picking up flowers. I love flowers. You can see flowers behind me. But I think as we all are entrepreneurs, it's very important to know ourselves and figure out what really work for us. And if you need, I would also encourage therapy sessions if you are comfortable enough to share actually what you're living. I've got to say that I'm also very lucky because I've got a business partner who is also my very close friend. So we often be like, okay, business aside, let's talk about how are you doing, really. Oftentimes I do weeks without somebody asking me how am I doing. So and then it's important for me to figure out how to do that for myself. Again, I think I would absolutely encourage other business people in the comment section, I can see some, to figure out what really works for them. It could be just from a small thing to a bigger thing, and then make sure they do that and make sure they make it a routine.
Yeah, thanks for that, Ysolde. So I see, let me just go to the comments real quick. Gilbert on LinkedIn has just joined us, Conrade. Please feel free to send in your questions as we have this discussion. So we won't have a designated Q&A session, but I'll try and pick in some of your questions as much as I can. So please do write questions. So Munyutu, take us back to the early days when you are starting the business at the port, or your early ventures. What are some of the expectations you had? Sort of you now come back home. What are some of the expectations you had? I know you mentioned a bit about relationships and how we are relationship driven. But other than that, what are some of the things you noticed and you are expecting that this has to happen? Yeah.
I think it's a bit unfair. So one is the timeliness of my fellow Africans and my fellow Kenyans. Whenever you set meetings, it's I was unfortunately spoiled in an environment where 10 o'clock is actually 9:45. I'm sure you know in our country, 10 o'clock is negotiable. It's 10:15. You know, there was traffic. So some of the things are anticipated, just as my colleague had said. Ms. Shimwe, please, you need to teach me how to pronounce the first name. So
it's E. Let's just try it. It's E. Yi is E, and then sold.
Ysolde, yes, that's it.
Ysolde.
As simple as
E
that.
and then sold. E and then sold.
I'm sure Ysolde would also understand when I say this. When you start a company, your anticipation is you will hit a certain amount of revenue within a certain time frame because your Excel file has said all will be well. It says in 6 months you'll be swimming in cash, and you might have some profits here and there. But the truth is, you don't have any control in dictating some of that. And my expectations when I first started was that everything will go as per plan, per the business plan, and that never happens. I've never done a business which went per the plan. I've had some which have taken a year for revenue generation, and I've had some which in 12 days generated $500,000. So, and I didn't anticipate that. So one of the biggest expectations is whatever you plan is what will happen. But it's true what they say, a battle plan never survives first contact with the enemy. And in this case, the enemy is the real world. You have a nice, beautiful plan, business plan, and you start implementing it, and the world tells you different. Another that I would say that is a big one that I had a plan for and didn't work out is having a work-life balance. You quickly realize I call it the immigrant work ethic. Working in your own company, you have to have the immigrant work ethic. There's no time off, there's no start time, end time. Then you start to learn when you begin burning out is when you start to say, okay, maybe I need to have some structures in place. But you don't really have that comfort, especially when your business is not generating income and your expenses in life need to be met. So that's one of the biggest expectations I had, and I was thoroughly let down. It's mainly around how the business would perform. And you quickly learn you have to roll with the punches. Well, that life deals you, because you could start your business, you lose a family member, which is what happened. You start a business, you are becoming a father and a husband, which is what happened to me with one of my companies. I'm in the middle of a fundraise, and I've got my son who's just been born. And I have to travel to South Africa to receive a global award. And there's no linear planning when it comes to your business. You just have to agree to roll with the punches and what the business serves you. One day you're here, tomorrow you're in a different environment which you had no plan for. So my advice on that is have an open mind when it comes to running a company. Nothing goes in a linear manner.
Yeah. Ysolde, do you have anything to add on top of what he said? Just quickly.
I think he absolutely talked about all the points really, really well. But I just have to add one thing. I just have to add one thing, and it's important to recognize that when I was starting business a couple of years ago, I never thought that being young and a woman could also be a setback. We have approached a lot of financial institutions and investors. Munyutu was talking about investors earlier on. It's never the same experience. And most of the times you realize that it's because it's because you are that person. You are a woman, you're young. What I would say worked for us is we were so young, and like when you're young, you really have nothing to lose. We will just go and knock on all doors and open and be aggressive and be like, I want this, and your office you are the person that's gonna need me to do this, help me to do this. They would send you back, and then we would come again and knock on the next day until they would help us or until we would find a better person. So we have learned, I personally have learned to speak up for myself and just keep the confidence and make sure that I am literally talking about the things that I believe in. I stopped using I think, I started using I believe. So that's one of the things that really worked for us as well.
Yeah. Just to interject. Ysolde is very right. When you come to deal with investors, at the time we were raising capital in Kenya, it was about 2011, 2012. And as a local, it wasn't really easy to raise capital. But then I remember a few investors saying to me, Munyutu, you're a black guy with a white guy CV. So you kind of give us the confidence that, our funds will be taken care of. In the grand scheme of things, it's actually very racist, whichever way you look at it.
Correct.
And we had to deal with a lot because my co-founder at the time was actually Ugandan and just like me, lived and studied abroad and came back. So we raised a significant chunk of funding, more than our competitors and our peers in our industry at the time, simply because we sounded different and we seemed to think different than our local counterpart. So I had an anticipation that when you talk to investors that, you're dealing with human beings. It's quite the contrary when you start to unravel the truth about them, and especially if they're foreign. This is not to say that all foreign investors are that way inclined. However, the ones that I dealt with in my time have been rather unsavory, especially when dealing with local entrepreneurs.
Munyutu, we can't just leave that conversation there, because I feel like you've opened it's called a Pandora box, or what is it called?
Pandora's
and I
box.
feel yeah. And Mali, I see your question, and we're going to talk about your question shortly, but maybe we can go into a solution, more of like what can I do? What can I do if I'm local, I sound local, I studied local? Is there, and I've experienced that rejection when sort of going to investors. Are there any, based on your experience, because you said you were able to talk to these people and forge relationships, what can we do?
Yes, as Ysolde had said, there's a fallacy that we're given as entrepreneurs that, you know, you engage investors and you get to this beautiful place called fully funded, giving you the runway to try out and test out different things. But we forget what our forefathers did when it came to running businesses. You organically grew your business from scratch. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with slow, painful growth. You shouldn't anticipate that injection of capital that says, hey, I'm giving you $1, $2, $3 million for you to try out your crazy idea. We always forget that it comes with a lot of strings attached. If you're not careful, it is colonization 2.0. Because a lot of things are dictated to you. You don't get to have a say on how you run your business. You've literally opened your doors to a new set of people to come into your company and to dictate how your company is run. So my advice to my peers here is that before you accept investment, please be very aware and read between the lines. And it's a marriage. Be very careful who you welcome into your own home, because as I was once told by one of my mentors when we were about to receive some funding, he said to us, look, Munyutu, the agreement you're about to sign is you're welcoming somebody to your house, you give them your house, and you end up living in your veranda because they've told you to move out the sitting room and also the rest of your house. So you need to be careful how, and you should be prepared to walk away, which is some of the hardest things to do, especially when you're walking away and you've got expenses to your eyeballs. And it's only when you do walk away that the other end realizes, okay, this has to be a 50-50 play. So it is a very tricky game in running your company, but my first suggestion is always opt for option one, which is organic growth. There's nothing wrong with that. We've been taught that, oh, you run a company, you have to raise money. And that comes with a ton of problems in itself.
Yeah. Munyutu, please write a book, please. Like you've become one of my favorite people to listen to. So just write a book and then we'll all buy it. So there's a question, Ysolde, I'd like you to answer here. Mali is talking about, and Munyutu, feel free to add. Please, when can an entrepreneur who has failed, so we say that, let me just paraphrase the question so it's a bit clear. Ashley, you can put it out. So we talk about how failure is a good thing, but when is it that, how do you know if it's a good thing or not a good thing? I guess is what he's asking.
Okay, I think I'm just going to talk from the organic growth perspective rather than the big funding millions of dollars side, because that's my case. I think that throughout the growth of our company, every failure has served us as a lesson. And the good thing is, and I think, how was it good? How could, is that the correct question? How could I tell you it was good or bad? Okay. So
can you? Yeah.
I think for me, in my understanding, it's only good. How do I put this together? I think you can say that it's good when you actually have another solution, like when you see it yourself in front of you. Oh, this is another solution that could go better. Because as entrepreneurs, like Munyutu was saying, your Excel sheet is telling you that you're going to be making millions, you're going to be making a profit. But when things are really not going as they are, they have been projected, you're able to figure out there's a learning point at some point in even the good and the bad, honestly. And I think as an entrepreneur and as a leader, it's your role to always be awake and figuring out what's the next plan. So I think the end goal is to be able to get out of that mess and actually find another solution. But every learning experience, every failure is a learning experience for me. It's also okay to understand and accept that, oh, this actually cannot work for the moment. I probably need more technology. I need a bigger team. I need people to help me on this, and then maybe move it forward to give it more years. But I've always believed in prototyping, and that exists everywhere, whether you're running a business, a service business or product business. It's very important to run an idea, get feedback. I think, and your clients are always the people that contribute to the growth of your product or service. I think for us, they have been our biggest source of learning. So through them, we've been able to detect, oh, this project is actually not working, or this one can work. So I think it's through that and through constantly improving as a leader, because that's your job. When you choose to be an entrepreneur, you gotta stay on the top, despite all the hardships that comes with it, and then learn. But I think every failure, it might be bad today, but a few years down the line, it's definitely going to be a good learning experience, because if you keep working on that. So I think one thing that's really inserted in our brains as entrepreneurs is to also keep pushing, keep going forward, keep trying. But it's important to recognize that something is not working, pause it for a minute, give it more time to do research or figure out what the next move could be, and then maybe take it up a few years later.
Okay, I want to flip the coin a little bit, and I'm glad that my co-host is back. I want to flip the coin a little bit. Welcome back, Irene. So let's talk about the pleasant surprises that happened along the road. I know when you said how you made, I don't know how many billions in 12 days, but other than that, what are some of the pleasant surprises that this journey of entrepreneurship has highlighted for you?
Very good question. So I'm a people person, and I love it when people are able to say, so somebody reached out to me, 3 members of my company 10 years ago reached out to me and said, hey, it was amazing working with you, because you taught us to, look at life differently and look at challenges differently. So the pleasant surprises that come out is when you don't anticipate somebody to tell you thank you for showing them a different way of doing something that they thought could not be done. Because a lot of the times the businesses I get involved with, it's not because it's been done before, it's because it's not been done before. And I thrive in the stubbornness and the rebelliousness of saying there's a different way we can achieve it. There's that. There's also the global awards. It's always nice to be recognized as a human being. Acceptance and recognition of your hard work really goes a long way, and especially when you've not anticipated to get it. So getting a global award, a Citibank global award, where we competed against about 122 other companies in 3 or 4 different continents, and coming number 1. That was nice. for me, most importantly, my biggest recognition is my my 5-year-old son. So our names are flipped. So his name is Waigi Munyutu. So he realizes that I'm a CEO of a company, and he comes and says to me, Dad, you know, you and I, we're CEOs of that company, right? I'm like, okay, fine, yes. And he understands the importance of entrepreneurship. And that's something which I'd like to tell my colleagues here. It's important that we teach our children, the younger generation, especially when they see success. Unfortunately, the African way is to keep quiet about it, and we don't talk about money and don't talk about the struggles that money come with. But it's important that we teach our children about entrepreneurship and about what it's taken us to reach where we are, because we usually like to shower them with the gifts of success without necessarily teaching them how that shilling or that dollar was made and the sweat it came down with.
Ysolde,
You totally hit the nail on the head. Yeah, I've been struggling with internet. I don't know if you guys can hear me.
Yeah, your video's a bit...
Yeah, it's a bit shaky, Irene. So Ysolde, how about we go to you? What are some of the pleasant surprises as we do it quickly so that we can take all these audience questions?
The most present surprise for me, I would say, from a business, from an organic growing business, was to actually, you know, like when we started making shoes, we also, part of our mission was to actually educate people how to wear locally made products. Because in some countries in Africa, you're very cool if you wear a product that came from somewhere rather than what was locally made. Unfortunately, that's the truth. So when we started making shoes, we invested a lot in educating people that, hey, you can actually wear this shoe. It's solid. You can wear it it's fashionable. It's elegant. It's comfortable. And a lot of people from the first trials stepping in the shoe, they're like, "Are you sure these are made in Rwanda?" So my everyday pleasant surprise is that we literally came empty-handed, pitched our product to the people in Rwanda, and they picked it, and now they wear it. I'm always happy and surprised when I'm walking on the street or when I'm on my drive to work. I see 2-3 people. I remember 5 years ago, I have a 20-minute ride from my home to work. I would count the pairs of shoes that I would see on the streets because I know them. I am the product lady. I can easily spot them. I would count 10 today, 5 years ago, and it's always a surprise to me when I see when I count 300 out of maybe 500 people that I've met on the streets. 300 every day they're wearing my shoe. I'm so surprised that people actually picked the product. They believed in the product, and they're proud to wear it. Even in the diaspora, every picture that I see on Instagram, every community over Rwandan, at least 3 or 4 people are wearing Uzuri shoes, and that is like a great. I feel like that's one of the biggest achievements to me, being able to produce about 35,000 pairs of shoes last year, and having all of them go out, people wear them. I think that's like one of the biggest flex, like the youngsters like to say it nowadays.
Yeah, Ysolde, I know your brand is very, very popular in Rwanda, and my question is, now let's look at the pandemic. How was your business affected? What are some of the things that you did? Was your business even affected to start with?
Yes.
Yeah, and what are some of the things you did? Yeah. Sorry, I'm losing you a bit. But what are some of the things you did to pivot? What is the one thing that you did to sort of survive as a business?
A very important. Can you hear me? Hello.
Yes, now I can. Yeah, now I can. Go ahead.
You broke off there for a second.
Oh, awesome. Yes, I was saying that one of the biggest disciplines that we have cultivated in our company was to actually set a business saving account, which has really helped us tremendously during the COVID times. Our chain, our supply chain was totally, how could I, damaged, if I would say, like it was erased from zero. Everything that we believed in, all the processes were shut down. So we had to find solutions. So part of the strategies that we have taken were to again push a lot the e-commerce. People like again, speaking from the Rwandan experience, people like to touch the product. They like to feel it in their feet before they spend their money on it. So this time we had to really invest a lot on e-marketing and e-commerce for the people to, see this pair you've been wearing for the past 6 years. It fits you well. Can you buy it here this time? And then we also eventually had to find ways to keep our team and keep them motivated, and even try to work with them because the biggest team that we have are actually the factory workers, the producers. So it was important to give them assignments in their homes. These are less privileged people that we work with. They do not necessarily understand how the internet works, but it was also a great experience to actually teach them that we can have a WhatsApp call. This is your assignment, and it was really important for us to see. I think as a leader, it's important to explain your vision to your people, and then for each one of them to understand their contribution, or to voice their to choose their contribution to that vision. And our team has been tremendously showing a lot of they really strengthen our beliefs in their beliefs in wanting to still work with us, where they would work on assignments in their homes, and then we kept running. Of course, we've lost a lot of millions of dollars, I'm gonna say, but as a leader, as leaders, we had to pick up and find new strategies and go back to our business plan, as Munyutu was saying, and now we have a culture of reviewing it every 2 weeks, every month, to see, strategy A is not working. Which one can we go up for? Because we used to be, okay, the business is running now, you could maybe only have strategy A, but now you've got to set a whole list of A, B, C, and D. If A is not working, then you have a B right away. You don't spend time trying to figure out what to do next. So it was also a very big learning season or learning experience for us, and slowly picked up, and I'm happy to say that we really are back to running, of course with the hardships, but running smoothly.
Yeah, and I'll follow that up with even as we start to round up, what's in your horizon as a business, as Ysolde? What's in your horizon? What are you looking forward to?
So we're strongly looking at expansion, actually, and and Nairobi is on our top cities that we're coming to. Watch out for us. We're coming in very soon. Unfortunately, it's been delayed a bit because of COVID, but we're pretty much looking at expansions through throughout Africa, and also keeping through the franchising method, if I would say, and then keeping sending products everywhere. We really believe in branding Africa as a source of fashion items all over the world.
Great, and welcome to Kenya when you do eventually come.
So
Munyutu, I want you to help me answer a question here on YouTube from Nyugutu. He says, the cost of doing business in Kenya is quite unpredictable. How do you cope? How do you cope with a kind of environment that is zero profit making? Don't know if you have a quick response to that.
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
So I've learned that the hard way, and I really empathize with Kagai. It is unfortunately the case in our country that the cost of doing business is very high. It's not even unpredictable. It's extremely high. I'll never forget the day my accountant called me and told me there's a definition with KRA. For those who don't know KRA, it's a Kenya Revenue Authority, that they apportion a part of your expenses to cost of doing business. And that's code for kickbacks and payments. So it's the unfortunate truth we're dealing with. I don't want to sugarcoat it. So how I deal with it is I have a zero tolerance to it, number one. Number two, I tend to focus more on industries and environments that are not, that are paths that have not been walked in the past. Because what typically happens is you then have very little to compete with when you're dealing with new ventures and new ideas and new spaces. So, for instance, going into esports, there's barely anybody there. It means that you're dealing with less of the country's issues when it comes to cost of doing business. But if you look at now the traditional businesses that have been there for decades, local government and national government have clamped down on them and are extorting the most from the entrepreneur, and to a point it just becomes unprofitable to run that business. So if you look at, let's say, for instance, the secondhand clothes business, it's extremely difficult. Yes, it's zero rated when it comes to taxes, but it's very difficult to ship stuff in and sell it locally and what have you. So I tend to focus more on new uncharted territories. In that way, I've got less of a burden to deal with, and I'm the one who now explains to KRA how to tax me based on the way business is being done.
Wow. We're gonna attempt a rapid quick fire, like give me 10-second responses. What's in the horizon for you and as an entrepreneur?
What's in the horizon? Similar to Ysolde, I want to venture into other African markets. Zambia for me is there, Tanzania, Rwanda, Uganda, and Ethiopia. So it's almost illegal for you to restrict yourself to your country of knowledge. You have to expand. We're Africans. We have some level of commonality amongst us that it's very difficult if I went to Rwanda for them to tell instantly that I'm Kenyan, or to go to Tanzania and they can tell instantly I'm Kenyan. We were designed to travel and we were designed to share experiences. So horizons for me is at least 4 other African markets before December.
Yeah, and it's interesting with the opportunity AFTA has brought. Let's see, it's beginning to be implemented in a few countries. Let's see how that will look like. Second question: what do you know to be true as an entrepreneur that you can share with others?
Change is constant and guaranteed and unpredictable. So just roll with the punches. Yeah, that is
finished.
Yeah, that is change. It's constant and guaranteed and rough.
Cool. What are you most grateful for?
Wow. Wow, good question. I'm grateful for having made the journey to come to the continent. I'm extremely grateful for that. I would have pulled my hair out if I was still living in England or living in London. It's still home, but I'm grateful to be home and to be amongst talents such as yourselves, Ysolde, the people on this panel, and the people who are watching. That's what I'm grateful for.
Yeah. Thank you, Munyutu. I'm grateful for you. I'm grateful for Ysolde. And I'm grateful to each and every one of you for tuning in. Let me just do some quick shout outs. Aaron, thank you for watching from South Africa. Kamal Deep, Chris Tioku, Karen Oruni, Sam Chimera, Super Hassanfu, so many of you guys. Thank you so much for joining us. And my co-host apologizes for her technical issues. Thank goodness there are two of us, so the conversation did go on. And AMI is really excited to announce a great opportunity for business owners and entrepreneurs around the continent. Like Pauline said, at a time when businesses are experiencing challenges, vast challenges, rising demand from new opportunities, or even challenges of the pandemic. The Survive to Thrive program is what we've designed to equip you as an entrepreneur with the practical skills and tools you need to position your business for growth. So take advantage of this opportunity. Limited discounts and scholarships are available, particularly for women entrepreneurs and those in social and environmental impact space. So apply before the deadline on 28th of February. And check your availability, your eligibility, and apply on the link on your screen. Yeah. So we've come to the end of our show today. Thank you so much for indulging us. Thank you to our guests for taking the time. Thank you for taking time off your evening. We look forward to receiving your applications for Survive to Thrive. We look forward to seeing you at the networking event next week. And most importantly, we hope you'll join this conversation again next month. So until then, we have been your hosts, Irene, and myself, Naomi. Have a good evening. Take care.